That is all from.
Yes.
That looks like some kind of bottle covered with foil.
Yeah, well, you try finding the budget for props after you paid off Greg Charles' bar bill. Anyway, I'll just put it in the housing round the back and we can get going. There we go. Almost a bit restricted. Convenient. Hey, we both said that at the same time. Anything else coming, Mr. Campbell? What a weird coincidence. Well, it works with anything. Minion bladderfish, Mimosian antimatter chopsticks. Cesium pentalacic mixed aluminium, Rixie Dixie Dixie dextroside. Get ready! So anyway, the team will be on hand all weekend, so if you have any issues, just find one of us and we'll try and sort them for you. And so to introduce them, here we have the chairman, James. On my far right, Jens. Joe. Captain. Woo! And Liam. Liam, could you give us a rundown of what they can expect this evening?
Yeah, what we got this evening? Well, we've got the quiz coming up soon, in about 15-20 minutes or so, I believe it is. I'm not looking at a watch, so I'm not too sure what's happening. And then we have a photo session with Tony Moore and John Menahan, followed by an autograph session with them both, and then we have karaoke. So I'm going to excuse to get drunk and do stuff. That's about the best I've got. Let's get down into Jump 17 started!
Because, I didn't have a huge involvement. But then, if I think about it, I was just thinking backstage how it came on. My qualification for this is that in a way I was the first person involved in this project once it went in. Because I did the warm-ups for the first series. So they were all running around backstage, nervous, little scutters, all these kind of things. And no one knew what this show was going to be, or anything. No one knew. People had met each other, they just turned up, what they'd been rehearsing for a week, and then they said, off you go, and I had to get the audience in a good mood. Was anyone actually at that first recording? Was anyone old enough to have been? Well, I was bloody good, let me tell you. But the thing about, at that time, I used to do a lot of warm-ups for TV shows, and some were quite easy, and the best gig you could get was to do the warm-up for a live TV show. Because say we're all here for a live TV show, you all turn up, and I can do whatever it is, 5-7 minutes, get you all in a good mood, and say, enjoy the show, and then off you go. When you do a show like Red Dwarf, what happened was they said, go out, do 10 minutes, get them all in a good mood. So I hadn't been going that long as a stand-up or a performer anyway. So once I'd done about 10 minutes, I'd done about a third of my entire material anyway. And then they came on, in the first scene, and the scutters broke after 2 minutes. So they said, Tony, can you come back out again? And I was out there for another 15 minutes before they got lucky. Then the scutters broke again. Anyway, I had to do about an hour, and I'd run out of material after about 25 minutes. And I think that's what they created a bond with me and the team, because at the end of that first night they were saying, thanks so much, you saved the day, because it was all going wrong. And then they were really nice to me, and they got me little parts, and we did stuff, and we were recording them all in Manchester. And so we mostly had to travel up from London and travel back together. So unlike a lot of shows, there was real camaraderie with it, which interestingly has carried on, and somehow you guys have picked up on that, and it still it's just a shame I'm not going to see a lot of them, because I've got to go tomorrow at lunchtime, so I'm only going to see a few. Anyway, so that's me, and that's why I'm here. I've been asked to host a high-powered quiz. But it didn't arrive, so I'm going to do this one. All the things happening, it should all be, the team that you're on, or the table that you're on, is the team that you're on. Question 27. What pivotal event separated Ace Rimmer and the regular Rimmer we all know and love? Ace was kept back a year at school. Ace was kept back a year at school. Question 28. In Series 10, what is Rimmer's new life slogan? It's hey-o, tip and dandy. Sometimes you have to learn how to lose before you're ready to win. So I don't know whether we want all that, do we? No. We just want hey-o, tip and dandy. There you are. That's brought a lot of happiness to the room. In question 29, Tony Hawk played which Roman emperor in Meltdown? It was Caligula. Supermodel Tony Hawk. Strange thing he won no award. Caligula. Question 30. What was the name of Crichton's replacement that was sent to Red Dwarf in The Last Day? It was Hudson 10. Hudson 10. Complete the name, question 31, complete the name of this popular Red Dwarf guest star, Tony. Tony did Tony not reappearing, son. Did he? The bastard, okay. Bet you never got him here. Right, anyway, we'll accept Tony Hawk and take a point off. Okay, all right, and then question 32 was what film we're showing tomorrow morning in here at 9 o'clock. It is Playing the Loans at Tennis. Okay, very much. So expect to see you here. I'll be introducing it, and we'll do a little Q&A after and have some fun. So I do hope you can come to that. So, what we want you to do is pop up here and I'm going to get you taking... No, a lot of hesitation about that. You were going to say it and you realised it was a shit now. Okay, so Stephen said, okay, so what we're going to do then, and the way I'll do is I'll ask the question, and the first one of you to shout it out will win. If you shout out the wrong answer, the other team will win. It's extraordinary. So the other team, if you're not sure, you can just hand it to them on the plate. How do you feel about that, Steve? Have you ever had your own show, Stephen, or not? Another strange presence. Here's the question. So remember to shout it loud, guys. Going by the odds, so far that would be a good guess, wouldn't it? But it isn't. I can tell you, strangely the answer isn't telling you to do it. How many times has the word smeg or a variant thereof? By the way, before I invented the way we were going to do this, I hadn't read the question. And now I've read the question, I think it's actually, no, we won't do it that way. So relax. The way we're going to do it is actually the nearest, I'll ask you both, and the nearest will win, okay? So I've seen the question now, and my idea was shit. How many times has the word smeg or a variant thereof been used in the 61 episodes of Red Dwarf? Okay. How many times? So I'm going to go, I'll let you decide. Should I go to Stephen first? Here, you need to go to Stephen first. The answer is 255! The exciting news is that we don't know what the prize is. Currently, it's only this at the moment. So there you are. But I think we can probably cobble something better together for the team. Oh, you mean 4,600 runs to hang it with the prize? You're suddenly in charge, are you? There. Okay. Well, according to him, you want to make it. Take that back, let everyone on the table have a seat. And then we can know. Okay. So, a round of applause for Stephen Manson.
Chris Barry turned up and Robert Devant. I was chatting away to them, so I'm sorry I didn't introduce it, but thank you for coming. How many of you, those of you that are here, just so we know, sort of really just wandered in at the end and have absolutely no idea what that was about? That's it, okay, fair enough. Well, tough tips. You've got hangovers anyway, you wouldn't understand it. So, it was it's a true story, based on a bet, something I really did, the book, playing all over to tennis. That is true. I suppose we're going to do a Q&A now, and so you can ask anything. But I do just want to explain a little bit about why I made the film and where the proceeds were going to go to. So when I was in Moldova for the first time, trying to win this dark bet, I had a little bit of a moral crisis when I was there. I just hitchhiked round Ireland with a fridge. I was on a bit of a high about human beings, about how positive I felt very positive with the world. And then I ended up in Moldova, which was then and still is the poorest country in Europe. And I saw a lot of extreme poverty, a lot of corruption, people not being paid, and it was a little bit of a slap in the face, to be honest. And I was there trying to win this silly, daft bet, and I was going to go back to the UK, write a book and profit from it. And it seemed that it was wrong not to do something, or share the profits at least, with this country. So I put half the royalties of the book towards a little trust fund, didn't know what to do with it. When there was enough money in the account to do something meaningful with it, I ran the two doctors, Diana and Grigori, in the film, and said, what should we do? And Grigori said, well look, we get all these kids referred to me. He was the head of the children's hospital. They've got cerebral palsy, and the state is just saying to them, give your kids up, put them in an institution. Effectively, we won't help you, we won't do anything. And he said, Deanna would love to open a centre so that we can help the families keep these children, keep their own children. And so we bought a flat and converted it and set up this centre. And now what we're doing is, with the proceeds from this, is we're building a new and bigger centre so we can help more kids or families all around Moldova with that. So I've got a few DVDs still, that's about 50 or so left over, so if at the end you do want to buy a DVD for a tenner, you'll be helping with that, so that would be great. Thanks for coming. And just recommend, if you've enjoyed it, just recommend the film to people. MoldovansMovie.com, you can actually stream the film free there, and then we're asking people to make a donation. So use Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff to get the word out. Thank you. So now I think we've got roving microphones. So if anyone wants to ask a question on any subject, fire away. I should just say, we've got the ventriloquist dummy wants to ask the first question. Don't look at the dummy, just watch his hand. Oh, he's going to do it that way. Okay. I don't think he understood the concept of ventriloquism.
I learned from Peter Dwarf.
Peter Dwarf, okay. This is good. I've got to be honest, I don't know who Peter Dwarf is.
There was a radio show called Educating Archie, and there was a ventriloquist on the radio.
A radio ventriloquist, that's right, yeah.
And Peter Dwarf thought he was so good, he went on telly on stage and, like I'm doing now, moving my legs, he moved it in the class.
I do remember now, yes, good. Okay, well let's take a question from you and then the monkey afterwards. Okay.
Okay. Right, my question is, What's your thoughts on the fact that you've been involved with Red Dwarf that's been on for the last 25 years? What's your thoughts on how you got this far?
Right, is that just a question of sort of saying, do you know how old you are? Sorry, it sounds like me. Have you, what's my thoughts on having got this far? Well, I'm not that.
What I'm saying is, how do you feel about being involved with something that's been a lot going for 25 years?
That's weird, because I was involved right at the beginning, and I did just about everything I could do on it. They were really nice. They said, we'll give you another part in the next series, we'll give you this. But there does come a point where you can't keep playing lots of different characters. So I'd love to be, if they do another series, I'd love to be involved and do another little part. They were trying to find something for me in the last series, but there was only a sort of tiny role available, and I said I'd rather wait and do something more meaningful. So it's a mixed response. I've kept in touch and friends with all the cast who are, as you know, are coming up here. But I don't feel like as involved as sometimes people think I am, because I've got to be honest, I didn't even watch the last series. Wasn't that a terrible thing? But my defence is I don't actually have a television. There we go. Got rid of the television, so there we go. So I will catch up with it online at the end. Okay, we have another question. Well, this will be a disappointing session. There's a lady over here with the...
Non-Red Dwarf related, but how did the stutter rat come about?
Oh, right. So just so in case nobody knows what this question is, how many people are sort of vaguely familiar with the stutter rat? Oh, okay. But there was about a quarter of the people that thankfully didn't know. This was 1988. I had a hit record with Stutter Rat with a group called Morris Minor and the Majors. When did Red Dwarf start? Same time. Same time. Wow. So that must have been weird. So I must have been doing both things actually. I think what happened was I did the warm-ups and then this thing suddenly became a hit afterwards, and then I thought, God, I'm far too important to be doing warm-ups. I'm number 4 in the charts. So Morris Minor Majors was a little cabaret group that I had at the time. I was writing comedy songs and we used to perform them on the comedy circuit. I knew Robert Llewellyn very well from sort of touring around doing various things. Chris also used to do the same circuit. And we knew each other all quite well. And then we went on a program called Saturday Live, Morris Minor Majors, performed this song, which was politically incorrect, I think now, probably was then. Slightly taking the piss out of people with stutters, which is not a very good thing to do. But I did anyway, right, so there you go. And it got to number 4, Virgin picked up on it, and number 4 in the chart. It was number 1 in Australia. Any Australians in? There we are. Do you remember it? No. You moved out there 8 years ago. Right, and where are you from? Yeah.
New South Wales. I moved out from Scotland.
Oh, right, so you're just sort of, you're a bit confused, you don't really know where you're at.
I still am.
Right, fair enough, okay. Hello, make yourself at home. Yes, so that was it. Is that a good answer, or I forgot who asked the question, really, but, okay, yes. So that was that. So, I should say that I've done a sort of 2013 version of Stutter. I haven't finished it yet. But, I'm doing a kind of album with some... So we use jazz musicians on it, so it's going to be quite weird, actually. And, anyway, so hopefully I'll let you know via all the social media that when that's available to listen to and be appalled by. Okay. Right, any other questions? Yes, this is a very... Oh, well, we will come to you. Yes, this gentleman's got a question.
Which of the appearances you've made in Red Dwarf is your favourite?
Which of my appearances in Red Dwarf is my favourite? I think it would be Caligula, really. So that came about, Doug kind of said, was looking at pictures of what Caligula actually did look like, according to the drawings, and apparently I do look a bit like Caligula. That's what he said anyway. I sleep with fewer horses. Fewer, that's it. It was a good part, actually. It was a lovely sort of scene. I like the scene. And it was the first time I'd done anything in the studio apart from a voice. We recorded them then live in front of an audience, and so quite a nerve-wracking thing to do. I was on at the Caligula scene was quite a long way into the end of the episode. And initially, when I first got involved in it, I did the warm-ups. So you come on at 7:15. Warm the audience up, they start recording at 7:30, and then they do the first scene, and then they pick up, do the retake, and they come on, and then keep people happy while they were waiting to reset, we do the makeup. It was quite a long evening, a long procedure, and sometimes recording right up till 10 o'clock. And this scene was right at the end, so I was kind of ready to go at 7:30. And I don't think we did the scene until about 9:30, and you're inevitably, even though you know this part, you kind of keep pacing around, going through the lines in your head. I mean, it's a good trick, actually, which I hadn't mastered then, which is just totally relax and just switch off, not even think about it. But you're nervous. If you screw up when you record something on film, it's easy, because you just go, oh, we'll go again, and there's about 8 people there, or there is no problem. When there's a studio audience, you want to get it right the first time, because that's where the laugh is, and that's where what they really, there's a magic about the first take. They very often keep the laugh from the first take, even if they use a second take, they still use the audio from the first one. So it's important to get it right. And Craig kept laughing all the time, because I think, if I remember rightly, I had to keep slapping him around. So the thing was, I think every time Rimmer said something a bit cheeky, I would slap Lister around the face. It's the comedy trick that we use to that one. So that was I really enjoyed that. That was good fun. And I was disappointed that there wasn't a spin-off series from it. But hopefully that still happens. There were some questions at the back, I think. Right at the back. We've changed your mind.
Apparently that was the same question.
The same question. What a blow to you.
More questions.
Yes, we've got some different questions, I think.
Are you still doing skateboard advice?
A question from John Lennon. I'll come to that. I'll just explain, John. Actually, I owe you this. The fact that I'm here is probably down to John, actually, because John Lennon, he was going to do the warm-ups for the first series, in fact. And then the dates changed, and then you weren't available, and then they asked me, in fact. So if you hadn't had some work, then things have changed now, you don't get any. But I will be here, so thank you, John, thank you for that. And the skateboard thing is, yeah, I do get, in fact, I actually got mistaken for Tony Hawk, the skateboarder, in the lift coming down to do this. I don't know where the bloke is, I think he's probably here. And he said, no, I thought you were the skateboarder. That was you! Well, good honesty, and you complete fast. So obviously this confusion still happens. So he's Tony Hawk without an S, and I'm Tony Hawk, but he's named all his games after him. So it's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. And there's an apostrophe in there, but you know, please not grasp the concept of the apostrophe in your life. So I do get mistaken all the time, and loads of emails get sent to me, to my website, asking me how to do a 909 or an ollie. And I got fed up a few years back and started replying. If you go to tony-hawks.com and click on skateboarding, there's a little picture of me holding a skateboard, and you can see all my replies to these. Along the lines of, if you spent less time skateboarding and more time paying attention in English, these grammatical mistakes wouldn't happen. say this because it's a question from the man who mistook me for Tony Hawk. So he's got to come a defence case.
Not bad about skateboard, swear to God.
There's another question.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I want to hear from you.
It's not bad about skateboard.
Okay, alright, well you jumped the queue, but anyway, fire away with it.
Right, you've done Caligula, a historical figure, obviously, as a role. What other historical role would you like to do if you could get a chance?
Wow, that's an interesting one. In Red Dwarf or generally? Well, funnily enough, there's a few actors ahead of me when it comes to casting figures in films to play historical figures. I don't know who they are, but I get a few calls. I could play I've got quite good legs. So if they remake Gandhi, I think I'd be ready. And I don't really lose weight in the part. I don't know other historical figures. I'll have to think on that. But Caligula's good because he was a complete nutcase and just was all over the place. So, but there was a I did get approached by Radio 4 if I'd like to play a historical figure for a play, and I couldn't think of anybody for that either, to be honest. So the answer probably is I don't know. But you don't know who I am anyway. So, perhaps I would play Tony Hawk the skateboarder. How do you become a hysterical figure? Oh, I know I'm a hysterical figure. You have to die, don't you? So I have to kill Tony Hawk and then play him. And him. Right. Now, we will take the person who's waiting.
Hi. Obviously, you've done a fair amount of musical stuff as well as your other comedy work. Just like to know, are you sort of classically musically trained at all, or just self-taught, or how did you get into the musical side?
Yeah, both actually. I did learn piano when I was growing up. That sort of, sit with a piano teacher type thing. As far as sort of grade 6. Which isn't bad actually. It's not. But it's interesting. I've got a theory on this that there are lots of people, contemporaries of mine, including my brother, who did this thing where you learn a musical instrument by sitting down with someone and they immediately chuck you into learning a bit of Mendelssohn and Beethoven and some nice pieces, and it's lovely, and you start playing it. But actually, what they're doing in that is they're telling you what to do. That music is just a list of instructions of how to play it exactly how Beethoven or whoever it is wanted it played. And it seems to me it's a really rather uncreative way of teaching somebody to try and be creative. And I used to do I had to do a sort of 20-minute piano practice. My dad was quite strict about it. He said, look, you'll be grateful for it. Sit down, do it. But then when it finished, I used to carry on, sort of just fiddling around and playing around on the notes and trying to learn the songs and work out what the Beatles tunes were, all this sort of stuff. And I spent hours doing that. So I started to teach myself and then learn about chords and all that kind of stuff. And if I hadn't done that, I would have just done what a lot of people do, was learn to this certain level and then just never play again in their lives. Which is an extraordinary thing that we do. And I think we do this in all education, actually. We shuffle these kids into schools and we say, there you go, here's the curriculum, learn that. And we come out, we're not interested in art, we never use it, and we get a job and we retrain and all that stuff. So, good question, leading me on to be far too serious. But there you go. Alright. There's a gentleman over there.
Sorry, how would you watch any future television appearances now you haven't got a television?
Sounds like that.
The long walk.
So the question is, how would I watch?
Any future television appearances by yourself now you haven't got a television?
Oh, I see. Oh, physically, how would I watch? Well, nearly everything now on telly you can pick up again, can't you, on a watch again or something like that. But I do, I used to, I've got to be honest, if I did anything on the TV before, I'd want to watch it as soon as I possibly could. I'd come back and I'd sort of wait for it to go out and I'd sort of tape it, or I'd wait to see what they'd done with it, how they'd edited it, all that kind of stuff. And I've reached the point now where I kind of sometimes just don't even bother to watch it. Well, there's so few occasions anyway. I do much more radio now. But I'm sort of a bit, I don't know what it is. You think you just do your best and then they can go and do what they like with it. You're an ingredient in someone else's dish, very often. And you're not always that bothered about finding out what the dish tastes like. What a wonderful analogy. I'm not sure that's a good or a bad thing. Probably neither. Okay, there's lots of questions now, but not enough people running around. He can run. Okay. I don't know. All right, we'll go next. Yes.
In the film, the footage of you being from Moldova, was that the original footage, or did you have to go back to Moldova, beat them all again, and have to admit all over again that they were Russian tanks?
Yes, a good question, and thankfully one about the film. Thank you. A few people watched. No, the film is a complete reconstruction. It's not reconstruction, I mean dramatisation. So it's written as a screenplay. All the footballers that I originally played, I played them in 1998. And they're all too fat now to look enough like footballers, and they're a bit too old really. So they were just a football team, a local football team that we got, and thankfully they were as rubbish at tennis as. I mean, most footballers it's true, the bet was based on the fact, I'm having this argument actually with Arthur Smith, who was in one of the Red Bulls, wasn't he? But I asked Arthur if he wanted to play himself. And I rang him up in the morning when he was in a particularly bad mood, and he said, I can't be arsed, you know, I'm too old to take my clothes off. And he is too old to take my clothes off. He has a helper that does it for him. So he didn't do it, but Steve Cross did it, he was fantastic. But yeah, the footballers themselves, the bet I had with Arthur was I was maintaining that footballers, although they may be great sportsmen, tennis you need a bit of tuition, you need a bit of technique, and they wouldn't have the chance to have it. And Arthur was saying, they'll be good, one of them will be naturally good at the game. Well, in fact, most of them that I played hadn't even picked up a tennis racket before, so they were absolutely hopeless. Apart from this one at the end, for those of you that didn't see the film, there's an exciting twist in the tale. Oh, you'll really want to buy a copy after this, I'm sure. But Moldova's changed quite a bit, so we had to be very careful where we shot, so that sort of advertising, hoarding, as much as possible weren't in shot. There were none when I went in '98. They were still state-run shops and things like this, and now it's changing and becoming much more like the West. The sort of disappointing side of it, of course, is where I originally played the football and tennis. The courts used to be packed full of kids from schools playing tennis, and now they're completely empty, and they're getting it really privatised, and they're going to charge €10 an hour for people to come and play there. Which, given that the average wage in Moldova is still $200 US dollars a month, €10 is a fair old month. So they're just creating this super rich class, and just don't give a shit about anybody else. It's common in Eastern Europe. Okay. Jim, hello.
In Red Dwarf, Better Than Life, what was your favourite scene?
In Red Dwarf, Better Than Life, the favourite scene was the scene I was in. The whole episode. Well, obviously, I only watched the scene that I was in.
So you didn't have to stay behind to have a look up?
Stay behind?
Threshold was going to go.
Well, actually, I do get a bit confused about what happened. I think is Buried Better Than Life the one where they got buried up to their neck in sand? Yeah, that was brilliant. That was because they were supposed to be on a desert island, weren't they? And we were in South Wales, and it was a bitterly cold day. I think it was May or something like that, but it was one of these really cold days, and they were genuinely. I think Craig was genuinely, that thing where your jaw shudders with the cold. And I had to just cut from a couple of, attempts to do it because he just looked too bitterly cold. So that was my favourite because they were suffering so much.
Any more questions?
Well, the episode you started, is any of the episode of Red Dwarf you'd like to be?
Right, good. I've never really thought of myself as starring in it. Were there any that I would like to have been in? I'd like to have been in them all, to be honest. It just looked like a fantastic thing to be in, and it was one of the hardest things about being involved in it right from the beginning, and John will sympathise with this, is that when there was a period when you were sort of getting your career going, and people were going, you're good at doing warm-ups, and you had to keep an audience happy, and you had to use... But, you know, the problem with being in a warm-up is that you weren't in the show, and you only a few people, and it just looked so much fun to be in it. So, eventually, you just have to say, I won't do those anymore. So I'd just love to have been one of the characters. So maybe, unfortunately, I'm going back later, otherwise I could sort of grab Doug, pin him to the ground and say, look, if you do any more, put me in them, or I'm going to do the same to you as I'm going to do to Tony Hawk the skateboard. And then he will be right. Okay, there's a man holding up a sign there, right? So we have a question. Oh, lots of people pick up a song where they start playing a song, you sing along with it, and then they fade the song out, and then you have to keep going, and then they see how well you stayed in time with it. And they got me to do Gangnam Style. It was, they do tip me the wink, so they don't normally, but John, the producer, said that we want you to try and do this, but it is in Korean, so when you do it, I'll send you the words, and I hadn't ever heard it, so the night before I listened to it, I wanted to do it as well as I could. And it was the second, and the nature of these things is you kind of learn things, but as soon as you've done them a lot, everything can empty out of your head when you actually do it in front of people. You just forget it. So I sort of thought I knew it, but then I realised I'd forgotten it. But it was in the second show, so I went to the toilet and I put it on my iPhone. So I was swatting in the toilet just before the show, listening to Gangnam Style. And singing along, and people were walking by outside, listening to a man on the toilet going, and you anyway, I did it on the program, and I did it absolutely perfectly. It was incredible. It was good. And then it got a huge response. And then the Monday morning, so the show went out. No, the show went out Monday evening. Tuesday morning, I was sort of woken up by people saying, you're on the Chris Evans show. And I'm saying, no, I'm not. I'm here. Chris Evans heard it, picked up on it, was played it 3 times during the show, and then the next morning he phoned me up and we could do it again on there. So for a while I was, the English side. So that's a long answer to the different question. I reserve the right to do that. Any other?
We've got time for 2 more questions, I think. So we've got one over here.
Given that, out of all the Red Dwarf series, out of all the episodes, what was your personal favourite episode?
Right, okay. Well,
were you in it?
Yeah, it would be one of me, well, I don't know, actually. I liked, is it Waxworks? Is that the one with... No? Right, there you go. What was that one called? Oh, hello. There's an enormous woman back there just given birth. The first bearded child. I tell you, she is one hell of a lady. Right, so if that happens again, you have a brother. Right, I've got one other question. What was that one called then? If it was not Meltdown, that's it. Because they were made of wax and then they melted down. What was Waxworks about them? Well, there isn't one called Waxworks. Never mind. Okay. That was good. It was fun. I suppose you don't, when you're involved in it, you don't like the shows in a similar way. You're very subjective, so you've been there, you've watched it all done, you've met all the actors who played the different parts and what have you. So I just had such a great time doing that one. That's the one I enjoyed so much I don't remember the name of it. But that was my favourite so far. I'm going to watch more later today. I like the first episode as well, actually, because it's just an extraordinary memory of that. Because I had to come out, I was talking to John about this last night, you do these warm-ups and you expect to be doing 10 minutes at the beginning and then coming out and filling in and doing 2 minutes, just a bit, and then going on and sitting down. But the scutters, the little dogs that they had, the mechanical dogs, they kept breaking down. What were they called? Not scutters. They are scutters. Yeah, they kept breaking down. So they had a mechanical difficulty. And they'd say, Tony, can you come and do, fill in? So it was like 25 minutes of talking. And if you know you're going to do 25 minutes, you at least go on thinking, I'll do 25 minutes. But if they come on and you think it'll be 2 minutes, 25 minutes seems like 4.5 days. So I just have the memories of that, and then watching it all come together was fun as well. Okay, I think we're going...
Have we got one more question?
One more question, okay, no pressure.
I know you.
Unless it was some weird, bizarre drug-induced dream, didn't you try and have a hit record in Albania with Norman Wisdom? And what I wanted to know was, did Norman ever switch off?
Right, yeah, good question. He's switched off now. I think ultimate switching off, depending on your beliefs. Was he ever off? When was he ever off? Yeah, so it did happen. In the book I wrote called One Hit Wonderland, I took on a bet where I had to have a hit record somewhere in the world within 2 years, and I was failing horribly. Then I had this chance meeting with the Norman Wisdom, who was still, at the age of 88, was still trying to get a play put on, and a book published. That was it. He wanted to get the rights to a book, to make a film for him to be in. And he was in my publishers having a meeting about this, and I met him and sort of said hello. And then I remembered that he was actually very big in Albania. When Enver Hoxha took over Albania after the Second World War, he banned most Western films, but loved Norman Wisdom films. So the only Western films that they watched were this little man running around, and they absolutely adore him. So I thought if I could persuade Norman to do a duet with me, that we could have a hit, hopefully we'd have a hit in Albania. And I managed to persuade Tim Rice to write the lyrics, and I wrote the music. And we did, we went over to Albania, did some mini tour, and it was number 17 in the Albanian show. Quite pathetic, really, in a way. But Norman himself was never off, really, in a way. He was like joking around all the time. He got to the airport going off. You know the things you're supposed to go through, the electronic things. This was not long after 9/11 when we went over there, so security was pretty tight. Well, Norman just ran up the side of that. Didn't go through. Just ran past, and they could have just shot him down. Fortunately, someone said, "No, it's Norman. It's Norman." So he was constantly telling stories, and I do think, though, I mean, you never know, there's some sort of old school type performer who felt that they had to do that. They just felt they had to be telling you jokes all the time. We did Just a Minute last week with Roy Walker was on, because we were recording it in Northern Ireland, and he was constantly telling jokes and feeling like it. You wanted to say that we're having a meal now. You don't have to keep it. But anyway, Norman was very much of that school, and now, as I said, he has properly switched off. So I think that was the last bit. So I'm going to stay here on the stage. I've got the DVDs of the film that 6 of you watched all the way through. Well done. And I've got some of Round Island with the Fridge as well, which is a film I made, which was directed by Ed By, of course, who did the first. How many series of Red Dwarf did you do? 3, 4? Well, 4 or something. So I've got those. They're a tenner each. I can sign them, personalise them to whoever you want, and we're going to get your mind to build this. Improve this care centre, make it bigger. So we'll do that. I'll do it here, and you may have somewhere else to go after that, hopefully. And but thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tony Hawk.